Hello, I'm Somi Arian. I'm a tech philosopher, author, filmmaker, and the founder of FemPeak. On this podcast, I speak to some of the most brilliant minds of our time to help us navigate emerging technologies leading to a socioeconomic singularity. Our guest on today's podcast is Allyson Downey, one of the co-founders of Meta Angels, an NFT membership community harnessing the Metaverse to unlock real-life opportunities. Meta Angels is founded on the values of generosity, transparency, and accessibility. They have a great business model, and I think you will really enjoy learning about it. So without further ado, let's dive right into the conversation. Before we start, let me tell you a few words about our sponsor for today's show. Meta Brew Society, founded by Holger Manwiller, is the first project that builds a utility bridge between NFTs and the metaverse and a legacy industry. Every Meta Brew Society NFT grants its holder unseen IRL utility of up to 300 cans of free craft beer per year in perpetuity, voting rights on the business decisions, and access to exclusive brewing classes and beer tastings. So Allyson, thanks for being here. I listened to your podcast with interview with Carly on Overpriced JPEG, which is a great show. And it was really interesting. And over there you had all of your colleagues. Was it two of you, or I can't remember, or if it was two?
It was Alex and myself.
Yes. Okay. But it's three of you, right? Doing this.
So Alexandra Kavalakis and I got started with Meta Angels. She's the CEO. And then Gabrielle Sabrian is our CTO on the team.
Amazing. As well. So do you want to tell our audience a little bit about it? So we have an audience of around 60,000 people in our mailing list, and I've got also about 80,000 people on LinkedIn, and these are mostly people who are really not Web3 native in any way. So I would say that about 1,000 of them have created their wallets. They're kind of starting out to get in more and learning more about it, but the rest of them are very, very new to this. So there's like a really big number of people coming into the system, and I just wonder, I'm trying to get to know community leaders like yourself, and kind of gauge, as we bring in new people into the space, how much capacity do we have to, because everybody coming in, they're going to learn, they're going to want to do their own thing, so I want to make sure that I direct people to the right places. So we are kind of like this transition, kind of platform for people coming into the space. So tell me a little bit more about when did you start, how long you've been working on this, and what's your goal, what's like where you're going with the business?
Yeah. So we started working on Meta Angels in the fall, and really kicked off in earnest in December. That was when Alex came on. That's when we found our artist Serana. But to take a bigger step back to that transition point and that inflection point that people are at right now, whether they're saying, I'm going to get into Web3 or I'm going to wait. It's very similar to where we were with Web 1 and signing up for AOL and getting an account set up there, or Web 2, where you start posting on Facebook and start engaging there. It's not something that has to happen yesterday. What we're seeing right now in the space is the people who are early adopters in all of the aspects of their life, people who do like testing and trying new types of technology. And one of the things that was really exciting for me with Meta Angels and being able to come into the NFT space is that I've been building a company in Web 2 for 10 years, as has Alex. And then Gabe, our CTO as well, is a serial entrepreneur too. And what feels most exciting and invigorating about it right now is having that opportunity to come in at the ground floor and really shape the direction that things are going, rather than just following along in that direction too. So for me with NFTs, I had my light bulb moment when I came to understand that the way that NFTs are being used right now, and it's very rudimentary, like we are just at the tippy earliest stages, is that they're a hybrid of a brand, like personal brand, in the way that you choose to wear a Supreme sweatshirt, or you wear a Gap t-shirt, or you wear Nike, or you wear, whatever that brand is that you personally associate with, and also a membership community. So NFTs, because of the way that they're structured, can act as a key card or a membership card into different web-based communities. And when I saw the intersection of those two things, building a brand, personal brand, and membership community, those are things I've built before in my career, and just felt like such a great entry point to start to learn more about the space and tap the potential for this technology that we're looking at, that really is still only being used in the most basic ways, but has so much potential underlying it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really fascinating, because when you are in the metaverse, and when you are going to be mostly in the digital environment, then it does really matter what communities you belong to, in a similar way that people go out and wear different brands, and that's a way of expressing themselves. And sometimes these can be the look of them can be similar, but a slight difference in the originality. I remember once I went to a party at Marie Claire's, it was a Marie Claire event, and there was a lady that I was talking to, and she was wearing a dress that looked very, very similar to something I had seen on Karen Millen. And I said, "Oh, nice dress. Is this a Karen Millen?" And she was so upset, and she was like really offended. And she said, "No, it's Alexander McQueen." And and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry."
Clearly, your personal brand affinity is very strong.
Yeah, and it was like the difference was like maybe between 150 pounds versus maybe like 7,000 pounds or something like that. Like quite a big difference. So it's a little bit similar to, like, I just managed to mint a Moonbird, and I'm like, like,
congratulations.
I know, right? Like, people I did a TED talk last week. I gave a TED talk, and I talked about, it was about decentralization, my TED talk, and Web3. And I showed my Moonbird, and I was like, I minted this like a week ago, and now like it's gone from $7,500 to like over $100,000. And I was trying to explain to people the reason why these things are happening is because we are so early, and we are taking risk. We are taking risk helping these community leaders build these brands, and because of that, you're getting rewarded. I don't know whether in the future,
in some cases,
like
Moonbirds is really, I don't even know where to begin in that trajectory and thinking about how that has unfolded.
Tell me about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I think it is incredible, and I'm so happy for my friends who own a piece of that because of the value of it. I worry about the people who are on the other side of the trade when people are selling off at those really high values. Like, this is the most volatile market I've ever seen. Sometimes for people looking in from the outside, it seems like everything is going upward. And, there's success bias in the space, that the stories that you hear and the stories that are shared out on Twitter and elsewhere are about the people who had those extraordinary points of success. And it can give a sense of I guess, comfort, or like a false sense of comfort to people who are thinking about coming in from the outside and think, okay, well, if I put $5,000 worth of my money into this, it is going to go directionally upward. It's not going to go immediately to zero. And immediately to zero is the way a fair amount of this space does, in fact, go. So there's an irrational exuberance that's happening right now in the market. And it's going to force a reckoning. We're looking at a market where there are not a ton of fundamentals, or frankly, in most cases, there are no fundamentals, that we're looking at a pure quantitative play across the board. We have this conversation a lot with people who are part of our community or watching our community about how, with Meta Angels, it's not an asset. It's not an asset class. It's a membership. And the people who are coming in treating it as a speculative asset in the way that they would enter the commodities market, or they would be buying stock, or they'd be buying something else that they're treating as an investment or a short-term flip. It's destabilizing the space in many ways, and gives me some fear about where we're going directionally when there are those expectations that are misaligned with what actually can be delivered from a company building standpoint.
No, totally. I agree with you. I was actually reading some of the messages on Discord with Meta Angels talking about floor and things like that. It's like, why is every NFT project all about the floor? Like that's not supposed to be how it is. Honestly, like with Moonbirds, I never look at the floor price, and it's only in the Discord that I see people are like, "Oh, we're back to close, to being this, or why are we below this?" And for me, it was access to that community. I want to have Kevin on my podcast. I want to, build relationships with people in this space, because I've already made some incredible, professional networking opportunities within the Moonbirds community. I've just onboarded two new people to our platform to be educators, one in DeFi and one in DAOs, both from the Moonbird community. I would have never met them, or maybe it would have taken me much longer, like if I met them in a conference or something, maybe I wouldn't have made the same connection. But because we are both Moonbirds, or all three of us, then it just created that possibility for me to. I was like, oh, you work in DAOs, or what? Can you come in and teach about DAOs, on our platform, and the other one about DeFi. So that's what really.
And I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
What it's about, and that's why I joined Meta Angels. I just joined also. I got 2 bear hugs from the hug community. I want to have Randy on my podcast. I'm building these relationships because we are building this platform. We've got new people coming into the ecosystem, and I want to introduce them to the best of this community. I want to show them the best of Web3. The most trustworthy. The best people. So I go out and I spend the money to buy into these communities, get to know people, and only when I trust, then I come back and tell my community, here are the projects that I bought, here are the ones that I trust. And again, it's never financial advice. It's just like telling them. I want to tell them from firsthand experience. Like I can't speak for something that, like, for example, I don't own an Azuki, so I can't talk about it, but it's only when I buy into these communities and go in and get to know people. So Moonbirds is a very interesting one. And like you say, it's a bit of an anomaly in the way that it grew. I was looking at the chart, like the way that BAYC grew within the first week or so. And then it was another one about Azuki. So kind of BAYC was kind of like this. And then Azuki was a bit like that. And then Moonbirds was like this in the first week. And it's very interesting. I think there's a few things to think about there. I'm a tech philosopher. I study the impact of technology on society and macroeconomy. And this is really the trend towards the singularity. What we see, like this sped up, adoption of technology. And I think that we are going to see more Moonbirds. We are going to see more of these, but at the same time, we are going to see many, many more crashed, projects. So I think there are going to be more anomalies, but they are not. But there will be fewer, maybe, But like this whole thing of, I think we are going to see for the first time in this decade, we are going to see one single human being worth $1 trillion, like Elon Musk is already on his way there, so like things are getting more I guess what I'm trying to say, everything is getting a lot more radical, like, like maybe a lot more, maybe radical is not steep, like everything is going so fast, moving so fast. But at the same time, what I was talking about in my TED Talk, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that, was that at the same time, every imperfection that we have in society is going to be magnified. Like if we have the gap between haves and have-nots, the lack of diversity, all of those things are going to be magnified.
Yeah.
Because if you are not fast enough to get in, like imagine, like for those of us who didn't get into, I don't know about you, but I didn't get into, for example, BAYC, right? So that's like an opportunity lost forever, because it's just getting completely out of reach, or punks, or, things like this. And so it's getting, it's basically, and then that is creating a whole new class of human beings that can hang out together in closed metaverses that are in their own bubble in a way, and everybody else is kind of locked out of that space. So I know that as part of your work with Meta Angels, you're helping a lot of projects. What do you see about this potential impact on the imperfections of society getting?
Yeah, totally. Well, first I want to say I love that that you oriented Moonbirds around the value that you're getting from the community, and that it is about the people that you're able to make those connections with and those relationships with. It's like that's why we created Meta Angels. We wanted to give people a place where they could make deep and meaningful connections with others who could actually have impact on their regular everyday life. The foundations of it are based on the fact that both Alex and I were enormously lucky across our career and continue to be part of these networks like Techstars and Y Combinator and Columbia Business School alumni and Yale alumni for Alex, that we are able to leverage to open doors, meet people, get advice. We have networks that we can turn to it for anything that we need, that can answer those questions that we have, help us get entry to conversations that we want to be having. But most people don't have that. So when we were looking at Web3 and tokenization and thinking about, what can be tokenized, started to explore whether access and opportunity and those more abstract concepts could be tokenized in the same way that access to a college textbook might be, or a timeshare might be tokenized. And we're seeing a lot of those real world uses of tokenization right now. But, are there ways that we can make those networks of support broader, more global, larger than they have been historically? And then your point as well about, missing the boat on BAYC, which I did as well, CryptoPunk. I missed the boat on Moonbirds because I didn't win a raffle, and I was not buying in at 8 ETH after the raffle. That's another one of the major downsides of this space right now, that the communities that provide the most value and the communities that can deliver the most to people wind up being exclusive to either the people who were just in there so early and the personal brand is then, if you know, or the other side of that brand is extremely wealthy for people who are buying into BAYC now, as opposed to the people who came in and minted it. So with Meta Angels, we were the first to do this, and that's also just exemplifies how early we are in this space, that this hadn't been thought of or executed before. But we were the first to build on-chain lending technology into our smart contract. So if you own a Meta Angel, if you own multiple Meta Angels, and you want a teacher in Ghana to be able to be part of that community, you can loan your Meta Angel to that teacher in Ghana, or that mentee that you have been working with where you live, or a teenager who is interested in learning more. You can lend your membership access so more people can come into the community. And when the value of the community is the contributors who are coming in and playing an active role, we're able in that lending to increase the value for the community overall, because it's the value that's in the community is not just about the people who are coming in with elite points of view. It's people who are able to contribute on so many different levels from so many different directions. We had someone post over the weekend that they were looking to connect with someone at UNICEF because they wanted to talk about their art and the impact of their project. And there was someone from UNICEF in our Discord who jumped in and said, I don't work in this area of UNICEF, but I can learn more about your project and figure out if I can connect you with the right people. So, it's someone who works at UNICEF. It's not somebody who is working for Jimmy Fallon or in this very high level elite job, but it's someone who can open a door for someone else within the community. And there's just so much value in that.
Yeah, I think we sometimes underestimate how strong the value of connections can be. I'm an immigrant. I came to the UK in 2005 by myself. I have no family here in the UK, with one suitcase, and before coming here, I actually worked for United Nations. I lived in, I was born and brought up in Tehran, and I worked for United Nations and European embassies when I was in Iran. I taught myself English. I came from a very underprivileged background. And when I came here, I didn't know anybody, absolutely. I was 23 already. And so I didn't go to school here. How do you meet people? You meet people through college, through school, all that sort of stuff. Even though I went to university here, I was doing a master's and MPhil, so I didn't have any classmates. So so the value of the connections that you make is so incredible. So many years later, when I started my business, so far I've raised $1 million by myself, just from my connections from LinkedIn and the people that I've met. All of my friends have invested, even my GP, my dentist, and my lawyer, house lawyer, everybody invested in the business because you make those connections. Now that we are going to be living majority of our time on online, I think it's really hard to make those connections in a Web2 environment in the original kind of form of social media. It's very hard to make the kind of connections that we are making in Web3 communities, because the Web3 community is a little bit more similar to early days of forums. If you remember, when forums were there, I remember when I first came to the UK, I was so alone. I was studying in St. Andrews University in Scotland, and it was cold. I didn't have many friends. And that was the days when forums were big, like 2006, 2005. And I made friends on forums that really helped me going, through that difficult time. And Web3 communities are like that now. The only difference is that you now have to pay, buy, an NFT to get in, or various forms of ways to get in. I really love this idea of being able to lend your NFTs. Now that I know that, I'm thinking about buying a number of your NFTs and lending it to some of our members so that they can come into your network and actually, so for example, one of our members recently, she was trying to pay for her membership and she had difficulty sending money, because she lives in Iran. I didn't know at first, and I originally come from Iran, right? So she was like, can I send crypto, because I can't send, I can't pay. And then when I looked at her surname, I realized she's probably from Iran. So I told her, look, I'm just going to give you a free membership. Don't worry about it. I think there are people who have difficulty from Africa, we get so many people who are like, come to, if people message me, hey, I'm from, Ghana, for example, and I don't I can't pay the membership. I usually just give them a code. I'm like, just join. But I can see this opportunity to maybe, buying a number of your NFTs and just lending them out. I can see these types of opportunities. This is something, it's just right. Like, you just really stimulated something in my mind. And I'm like, I need to do this more and just go out and find these opportunities and then give them to, to our members. this is such a beautiful opportunity that we didn't have before.
Thank you. We, in that, to the point I was making about how early we are in Web3, I sent a message to Ben Yu, who's one of the co-founders of Curious Addies, and I said, hey, I've got this idea. Is it possible to lend a token on chain and be able to recall ownership of that token on chain in the future? So if there is appreciation in value, you're able to capture it, but you're able to grant those benefits to someone else in the meantime. And he started thinking about it. He said, I don't think anyone's done it, but let me think about how you could do it. And then, a couple of weeks later, I had kind of pieced together these ideas for what that first iteration of that code could look like. And we've open sourced the technology. Like, anyone is welcome to use it. We encourage any other projects to use it. But if that didn't exist in November, and now it exists, and now it's something that other people can use. So just think about all of the possibilities of things that can exist that could be far more complicated than what we implemented with the lending technology. And that's one of the things as well that's so exciting right now about where we are in Web3, that it is like those early days of the forums where it's relatively intimate, that it's a small group of people who are like-minded and innovative and kind of thinking big about the possibilities. There are so many big possibilities. I have what I call the wheel spiel that I talk about all the time, where I feel like with NFT technology right now, we are looking at the invention of the wheel, that it doesn't even have spokes yet. The original wheel was a pottery wheel, and eventually it got turned on its side and used to move things around. And that's where I feel we are, that I'm still looking at this thing that's being spun in circles to make pots, and I can envision the wagon. I can't yet imagine those higher order uses, like having notches carved into it so it can be turned into a gear that interacts with other gears, that pulls down energy from a wind turbine. But I've got conviction that those higher order uses are there. And that's one of the things that's just so exciting right now.
Absolutely. So Allyson, where do you think you're going? Like, where will you be in about 5 years? Look, I know that this space is moving so fast. That's very hard to tell where everything will be in 5 years. But what's your vision? Where are you going?
Yeah. So, with Meta Angels, we want to continue to drive value as a membership community of making connections with people. That could be spun off into multiple micro community, and by micro I mean like where we are right now, where it's roughly 4,000, 5,000 individual people, spinning that off. So we've got replication of that, so there is still that sense of intimacy, so people are able to make those deep and meaningful connections. But one of the things that I am spending a lot of my time thinking about and looking at in the space is what the other innovations are that are coming in, and how those learnings can be incorporated into what we're doing, and incorporated into what's next. So for us right now, we had talked about this a little bit offline, but we just launched Angel Labs, which is a Web3 accelerator that is today focused on companies that are NFT enabled. But they are companies, they're not projects, that are leveraging NFT technology to help them get to that next level. And we've talked to 300 companies over the last 4 weeks, I think, between opening applications and today. I think there were our team on the Angel Lab side did 225 individual interviews, as well as reviewing all of these applications. And we're just seeing so many really interesting uses of this technology and ways of unlocking it. So for me, I'm just watching to see what's emerging from this space, thinking about, what are the consumer packaged goods plays? What are the loyalty programs? How can NFTs be used for more social good? How can NFTs be used for environmental impact? So many uses and applications and opportunities that I can't even wrap my head around yet, where we're going to be in 5 years. I feel like I have a sense of where we're going 5 months from now, but the space just iterates so quickly and changes so often that it's just so hard to predict.
I feel like, pretty much everybody I speak to these days, they can't see beyond a few months because it's so moving so fast. But when I speak to people who are in traditional, finance or Web2, they are usually saying, oh, it's like too soon, and too soon, and like it's not yet brewing, the whole thing is not ready, so they're not coming in because they think it's too soon. And we are constantly thinking it's too late. And I posted
Right?
this on my LinkedIn the other day. I said that the moment that you get into crypto and Web3, the first thing that you think to yourself is, why am I so late? Why did I not see this sooner?
Yeah.
No matter how early you are, you always think you're late, unless you are Satoshi himself.
Yes. And I saw someone tweet about how if you look at NFTs and NFT adoption across the world and you round up, it's still 0% of the world. So rounding up, we're at 0%.
Yeah, it's 1 million. I believe it's like around the world, 300 million people have crypto wallets and only 1 million have NFTs. So that's like less than, like not even 1%, not even 0.5%. Yeah, it's very small.
Absolutely. And when I think about like where we need to go to get that broader adoption, we're at a little bit of a chicken and egg inflection point that we're not going to see widespread adoption of NFTs until they feel more intuitive and the friction is reduced. But until we have more people, we're not going to have a really clear sense of what people are looking for. That I grew up on the bread and butter of Web2, of listening to your customer and paying attention to what your user wants and iterating and making changes based on that. We just don't have a broad enough user base right now to have a clear enough sense into that. I analogize often that we are looking right now with NFTs at what we were seeing in the very earliest days of personal computers, where in order to do something on a personal computer, you took a disk out of an envelope, you put the disk in your computer, you like flipped a little switch, you turned on your computer, and then you got this prompt where you typed in, C:\setup.exe, and that's what got things moving and rolling for you. And that's where we are with NFTs. And now today, like, I pick up my phone, I don't even have to touch anything. I just swipe, it looks at my face, it knows it's me. And then it doesn't feel like I'm interacting with a computer when I'm doing that, but we are. So what are those integrations of NFTs that are going to feel that frictionless and that intuitive in the way that we're using phones right now? Like, I think we're going to be looking 5 years from now backward and thinking, I can't believe we used paper passports as long as we did. That's like, when you think about what could be tokenized and what could be turned into something that is really, really much better suited for the blockchain than it is for the legacy quote technology that we're using. Things like identification, things like proof of where you have been and where you want to go. Those are all things that make so much sense in the blockchain. But right now, there is just so much friction to that actual usage. There's a lot of jargon getting terminology. There are 80,000 steps to do something on chain that to the average person, if you think, okay, well, I have to set up a custodial wallet and then I have to get money from my bank account into that custodial wallet, and then I need to transfer it into the currency that I actually need to use. And then I need to move that into a wallet that I can use to interact. It's just, there's so many steps. And it's holding back. It's holding back the people that we need in order to figure out what the direction is for the technology.
And there is no customer service. There's nobody to help. You are on your own, right? You're that
is the downside of decentralization.
Yeah, I got scammed during my minting of my my bird, my Moonbird. I actually basically got that bird for 5 ETH because I lost 2.5 ETH to clicking on the wrong link, and it was so quick. It looked exactly the same as their original website, and it just had a tiny bit of a difference. So I made that mistake, and I clicked on, and like it just took my money so quickly. There wasn't even like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, when you are on your bank, when you want to set up a new payment, it asks you so many questions. Are you sure this is not a fraud? Like,
right?
Has somebody emailed you? Like, I wish that there was that kind of interface that would just ask you, or like there was like some kind. I was thinking about Moonbirds, that they raised a lot of money through this. I would have loved it if there was like more customer service that day, like that like there was nothing, like you were on your own, and then you are under this pressure of doing this in 3 hours, and oh my God, like I made a YouTube video about it because it was so stressful.
Well, and it doesn't have to be 3 hours.
It doesn't have to be, right?
And like we ran our min over 48 because we didn't want people to have that sense of panic. We didn't want people to have to wake up in the middle of the night if they were in a different time zone. We wanted to be able to be there and say, okay, we're here to hold your hand through it. If you're having trouble, like you've got 48 hours to do this. We had our Discord was manned round the clock helping people. It does not have to be that really frenetic, fast, urgent.
Yeah, I don't know why some projects do that. BFF was 36 hours, which was great because I had my TED talk that day. It was the dinner before the TED talk, and I was like, I just went and had my dinner, came back to the hotel, minted my NFT, went back to sleep. Like it wasn't frantic or anything like that. It was very sweet. So I know it's a marketing thing, right? But it's like just go. But it was like really, really stressful, and I lost 2.5 ETH, which it's quite a lot of money.
And you're a sophisticated person who is going in and doing that. So
and
imagine what it feels like.
Imagine that, right? Like it was so easy to make that mistake because the way that like there were maybe 50 new Twitter accounts that were created that looked exactly the same, that everybody was posting, everybody was tagging. It was just and then at first I went to the right website and it wouldn't go through. Even though I put my gas fee up, it wouldn't go through. So I was waiting forever. And then I went to Twitter and I saw that people had posted, look, it's not going through, should we wait? And I just canceled that. And then when I went back again, I just made this mistake. So it was like, really difficult. So,
well, and if we're able to help shift some of this focus away from the FOMO and away from the floor talk, and we can have people focused on where the opportunities are for innovation rather than like picking apart the projects that are already there. One of the things that feels very missing in the space right now is an escrow wallet, where you purchase from an escrow wallet, you're able to see, okay, this was verified by this contract that I trust on this end, and my money is in this wallet, but my money is not getting sent to that contract until I have verification that it's going the right place. Like there are so many little things that we're just too early to see right now. And there's so much focus on these elements that are not mission critical, that they're not really advancing the space and they're not helping us move forward. And I would love to free up some of those really great minds to be able to focus on those things.
Yeah, there's so much focus on speculation, short-term speculation, all that stuff, which is not helpful. So now that I have you here, I'm gonna take this time to ask you for your input and use this as a mentorship opportunity, because you've worked with so many Web3 companies. So I want to ask you, I want to explain what we're doing and ask you for your opinion on maybe how I can optimize what I'm doing. So essentially what I'm building here is a platform which is kind of like a new form of university. The idea is to close the gap between formal education and to close the gap between formal education and the speed of technological advancement, because technology is moving so fast. For example, I was speaking to a lady who said she just got accepted to do a PhD in decentralized finance. I was like, what's the point of doing a PhD in decentralized finance? It's going to take you 4 years to do that. Like DeFi will have moved on. There will be something else.
Yeah.
You know? So the platform, what we are doing is we bring in live, it's all live mentorship, and then it gets recorded, and then the recordings get edited as, within a few days. They are all edited. We put in all the links, and then goes into our on-demand section. And as we move on, and as this industries change, we can easily remove segments and put in, replace them, so that it's constantly like a puzzle piece. It's constantly like a live university that's constantly up to date. And no matter when you go in, and this is in some ways kind of a response to things like, say, for example, a masterclass or things like that, which is like it's recorded and then it stays there, and after a while it becomes outdated, the content. That's why it's not like recorded courses, but it's live recordings. Every week we have several sessions. Right now I'm doing bringing on board educators to teach about NFTs, about DeFi, about DAOs, about conversational AI. So like not just Web3, but like the bigger picture, everything that is technologically dependent, that's going to constantly change. So that there's a membership for that. And then we are encouraging companies to come in and buy that membership for their staff as like their lifelong learning, and staying up to date, because so many companies now coming into the space, they want to learn about NFTs and Web3 and, DeFi, all of these things, because it's changing everything. So that's what I'm building. And we are a team of about 12 people now. And then we've created our own NFTs, which all created in-house, and it's based on a picture of me when I was in a band. And the idea of that is that the first iteration of it is all women, and then the second one is going to be called Allies, and we're going to be kind of pairing those women with men and people of other backgrounds, like other LGBT, all sorts of kind of backgrounds, so that they have like these allies. So this is kind of the concept. And the NFT project is separate from the business. The NFT project is more of a community that want to support what we are building. And they will also get, access to certain things that are on the platform, or, various perks as we build this. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that model.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I think is like one of the fascinating use cases for NFTs, like educational opportunities and educational access, that should be the direction we should be moving in from a university standpoint, and increasing those layers and levels of access, especially because of those technology enabled communities that you can build as part of that. One of the examples I've used is, imagine if Duolingo came with a built-in community where you can practice the languages that you're learning as well. So yeah, I see so much potential there. And I have conversations with Web2 and legacy companies all the time about how they are helping their team members get up to speed on Web3 and DeFi. So I see so much potential there. I'm curious, as you're thinking about building out that programming, who the core audience is for it. Is it more on the corporate side? Is it individuals?
So it's think about LinkedIn community. It's like the LinkedIn community, right? So they are either they are professionals working in companies wanting to upskill themselves, or they are entrepreneurs who run small businesses and want to see how how Web3 and conversational AI, all these new kind of technologies will impact them. So it's like generally a mature audience that are people who are like maybe over 30, 40, 50, that are thinking about how do I adapt. So it's really focused on helping people adapt. It's not really for the platform as it is. It's not really designed for, let's say, Gen Z. It's more designed for 30 and above, maybe even 40, 50, and above, because it's really for people who are not digital natives, who want to understand, how do I upskill myself? How do I reskill myself? How do I change my business model? So either you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, or small business owner, or you work in a company. So that would be the B2B side. We've actually got Morgan Stanley as our first client, and that's but they're doing a pilot program. So it's like a small scale, 100 people from Morgan Stanley.
Yeah,
but
that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I want to get more people, and then also looking at creating POAPs to give people POAPs for, and then like when you have a certain number of these POAPs, for watching the programs or attending the programs, then that becomes your certification. So you can, so really just thinking about building, what I'm trying to build is like a new kind of university.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
That's great. That's good to hear. As a final kind of, wrapping up, how do you think communities like what I'm building can be of service to Meta Angels? And, what can we do? What can other communities, look, our members hearing this, how can we, because there's like a bunch of us work, like you said, how small this community still is, that this space is still is. So there are so many ways that we can support each other. And I would love to know, we have members who are, very well off, and there are people that are, maybe just coming into the space, they want to learn, so there are people that will listen to this. There are also people from corporations that will be listening to this. We have a high number of people from corporates listening. So what's your message to them? What do you want them to know about Meta Angels, and how can our community or I help?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's such a wonderful question. So for us with Meta Angels, we are working on building the bridge between the metaverse and real life, where we are harnessing that technology and leveraging the relationships that are getting formed in the metaverse and Discord communities within NFT communities to drive that real life impact, and doing it in a way that's centered on values. So the core values for Meta Angels are generosity and having a give first mentality, like your question, what can we do to help you? And transparency, with a lot of these DeFi Web3 communities, there is a lot of opacity around who people really are. There are so many benefits to that for some subsets of people. So not having names attached can be really helpful and freeing and powerful for people, but it still is important for us to know who people are, not necessarily their names, but what they have to contribute, and having that transparency around their identity, if not their name, that enables those connections to be built on a stronger foundation. And then finally, accessibility, and ensuring that the community remains open to the people who can benefit from it, even if they may not be able to afford it financially. So as we're thinking about those values and growing the community, people who hear those and it resonates for them, that's who we want to have be part of our community contributing. We have a central structure called the wishing well within Meta Angels, where people can post something that they need, and then other members of the community will scroll through and jump in and say, this is where I can help. Like that UNICEF suggestion or a question that we had gotten with the person who replied with a suggestion of how to connect with the right people there. So really looking to make those meaningful connections between people who are committed to helping and lifting other people up. So we'd love to have more people who are aligned joining the community, spreading the word, talking about the impact of that lending technology that we have, and making connections within there and within Meta Angels. And I'd love to turn the question back to you as well. What can we be doing to help you?
Oh, I really appreciate it. So before I answer that, can I ask you, so for people to join, the only way is to buy the NFTs? Is that the way that they get in?
So there are sections of our Discord that are open only to people who are holders or borrowers of a Meta Angel NFT. Within our Discord, there is a community, a channel of people who are looking to borrow or looking to lend. So if you're someone who wants to check out the community and see what things are like prior to buying, because $600 NFT is outside what you can afford, then please come into that channel, raise your hand. There are plenty of people within the community who are looking to make those connections and lend out their NFTs. And then there are some other channels within the community that are open and will remain always open to everyone. But the Wishing Well and Offers channel are just for holders.
That's amazing. Okay, that's great to know. Yeah, so in terms of us, so now we have got this, the NFTs that we've created that we want to get out to as many people as possible to tell them about what we're doing. So if you can think of the NFTs as like a Kickstarter campaign, like I want to get people who buy into our idea of what we're doing. It doesn't matter if they don't need it, right? Like what I mean, like it doesn't matter if somebody is like, oh, I'm already very well versed in Web3. That's okay. You can support what we are doing. So the NFTs are, and we're going to have a drop which is very, very accessible, like 0.02 or $60, but it's like a Kickstarter campaign for us to get the word out about what we are trying to do and help us raise a small amount of fund that will help stimulate so that's what we are doing. So I need to go out and meet more people. The problem is that like when we do outreach and talk to people, when we say about that what we are doing, some people look at it and say, oh, but I'm already well versed in Web3. I'm like, no, that's not the point. We're saying, do you want to support what we are doing? And it's a growing community, so you will benefit from it over time as this community grows. So so that's what I'm trying to kind of now get the word out about. So that's why I was hoping to get onto your program, because I heard the model that you mentioned to Carly. So I'm not sure if it's I'm guessing that's late now.
There will be another cohort. I'm not sure yet what the timeline is for that. The wheels are turning for me now, where I'm thinking about whether there are two different types of NFT within your ecosystem. One that is for the people who are looking to learn, and one is for people who are looking to share knowledge. And that might help. But this is me thinking out loud. And again, when you think about it as a personal brand, and what the brand is that people are putting forth, are they putting forth that there's someone who wants to help onboard other people? Or are they putting forth that they are that they're onboarding themselves?
Yeah. So. Okay, awesome. Well, that's on your mind now, Elena. I'm in the community. If you come across any thoughts, let me know.
Absolutely.
And I will be following with interest what you're doing. And I'm going to pick up a few more of your NFTs. I'm going to have a closer look at the ecosystem. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to seeing you again and following you on Discord and on social media. All right.
Thanks so much, Somi. Thank you.
Cheers. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Allyson Downey. Be sure to check out their NFTs and their fantastic community. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it on Apple, Spotify, or any other one of your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to give it a 5-star rating and write a review. The full reviews are also available on my YouTube channel, The Somi Arian Show.